Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy. Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy. Can't you see she's spittin' nerdy? Look at her, she's spittin' nerdy.
Hello everyone, it is January, the month of resolutions and big changes. A lot of people this month will already have resolved to lose fat or get more fit or have some resolution revolving around weight loss. And for any of you who made a resolution for this, I want to give you guys a few solid tips that will help benefit your fitness, your wellness, your happiness, etc. that aren't the most straightforward ones that you would hear over and over. If you watch my channel regularly, you already know what the big things are that you have to focus on. You need to exercise, particularly weightlifting. You need to make sure you're eating clean and healthy foods. You need to make sure you're getting enough sleep. And you need to make sure you're managing your stress. I've talked about all of those in detail ad nauseum, so we're not gonna go super into each of those big pillars today. Today, we're just doing small little tips because honestly, it's so much easier to implement small, tiny steps to get you towards your goal than to have these giant things that you're trying to accomplish that you've never really put time into before, and it can just get super overwhelming, and then you end up quitting because you can only do 50% of it, so why even bother doing the rest of it? So I recommend implementing these tips one by one. Wait until you have a solid grasp on one of them to add another one. That way, you aren't trying to add a bunch of different things at once. You only can do 50%, so you end up quitting. These tips are designed to help you improve your fitness as well as your wellness. So if you end up implementing all of them, you're going to end up a happier, healthier person. But without further ado, let's get into tip number one. Hello there. Tip number one is to get rid of the soda and replace it with something like kombucha. I don't often say that foods are purely bad for you, but if there's one thing that is basically purely bad for you, it's soda and alcohol. I'm gonna get you out of the fridge though, so I stop wasting the cold air. There's literally zero nutritional value in soda, and that much sugar can actually cause your body some damage. So cutting that out and finding something to replace it with will drastically change your fitness and your health if you are a regular soda drinker. My personal soda alternative favorite is kombucha. It does have a little bit of sweetness to it, so it can help satisfy that craving. Plus, it's generally really good for you because it's packed full of probiotics which help your gut. But if kombucha doesn't float your boat, I recommend any naturally flavored carbonated beverages like LaCroix or Spindrift, or I think they have flavored Pears now, flavored with like fruit juices and stuff. Those kinds of things tend to be much lower in sugar. They have the carbonation, so you still get the same mouthfeel, so it can help satisfy that craving for soda, and they're generally just a lot better for you. My next tip is to generally stay active by setting a step goal. Aiming for 10,000 steps a day is probably the minimum, but will also help keep you a lot more fit and a lot more healthy, and also boost your mental health as well. Being sedentary increases the risk for so many different chronic diseases as well as all-cause mortality, and you are still sedentary even if you're working out for an hour a day. If you're spending the rest of the day sitting still, you have a sedentary lifestyle. You just also work out. And you don't have to stay active through getting in a certain number of steps, but for people who are otherwise sedentary, who don't have an active job, who would just go to work, sit at work all day because you have a desk job, and then come home and sit on the couch, setting a step goal encourages you to get up and actually move and take steps. It's something that I really have to do for myself, especially now that I work from home. It's so easy to just wake up, walk about 20 steps over to the desk in the dining room and just sit there all day and then go to bed and not get any steps in. And that's so bad for me. So I like to make sure I take a few 15 to 30 minute walks throughout the day. And what I'll usually do is, if I'm answering your DMs, I'm probably out on a walk, or I'll just Instagram story, tell you about my day, answer your Saturday Q&As when I go for my walk, or I will be listening to an audiobook or podcast. Speaking of which, I actually am in the middle of an audiobook right now that I highly recommend. It's super fascinating. For all of you nerdy people like me who just love learning new things, this book is the best book ever. It's called A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson, and he literally wrote it because he had so many like science-y questions and he couldn't find the answers. So he's like, screw it, I'm just gonna do the research myself and write an entire book about it, which is totally something that I would do. And so it literally is a short history of nearly everything. He starts with the Big Bang and goes all the way up until basically today, telling about how we got to where we are, which sounds like a boring old history textbook, but the way he tells it all and describes it all and discusses it all is actually super entertaining, very interesting, and you learn a ton in the process. So if you want to be one of those people that shows up to dinner parties and can just impress everyone with your random knowledge, this book is for you. As always, I am listening to this book on Audible, which, as you guys know, is my absolute favorite audiobook platform to use because they have a huge selection of audiobooks. They've had anything on there that I've ever wanted to listen to. And the app also lets you listen to books at 2 times speed, which for me is absolutely key because if I listen to it at regular speed, I get bored and stop paying attention, which is why I also talk so fast on my YouTube channel, yay! And as always, I'm happy to report that you can listen to my book recommendation for free. If you go to audible.com/Marissa or text Marissa to 500-500, you will get a 30-day free trial of Audible plus 1 free audiobook credit, which you can use to listen to a short history of nearly everything, or literally any other book that you could ever want to listen to. You don't have to listen to my recommendation, that's okay. With the Audible membership, you get access to an insanely huge library of audiobooks at discounted prices. You also get access to Audible Originals, which are unique stories created for Audible by celebrated storytellers from worlds as diverse as journalism, theater, and literature. And you can also use it to help you achieve your New Year's resolution. If your New Year's resolution was to become more worldly and educated, then I definitely recommend listening to a short history of nearly everything. But if your resolution was to become more fit, I actually have an entire list of other books that I highly recommend on my Instagram story highlights, but I will also list them below for your convenience. There's a ton of books you can listen to that will help educate you and teach you what you need to know to become more fit and healthy. So if you want all the goods, make sure you go to audible.com/Marissa or text Marissa to 500-500. You can grab yourself a free audiobook and go on walks and listen to them in the rain. That's how dedicated I am to getting my steps in. It's starting to rain a little bit harder and I might go home, but walking just makes me such a happier, healthier human that I go for walks in the rain. My next tip is one that I actually managed to learn, thankfully, at a very young age because I was diagnosed with celiac disease and had to do this for literally everything that went in my mouth, and that is read your labels. Ideally, you want to focus on foods that don't even need nutrition labels, like fruits and vegetables and meats and stuff that you find in the produce section. If it doesn't have a nutrition label, it's pretty much guaranteed to be a whole unprocessed food, which will be good for your body. But for those foods that do have nutrition labels, you can learn so much just by getting in the habit of reading what is in the food that you're eating. Once you start reading nutrition labels, it is such an eye-opener. So many foods that you would not expect to have added sugar have added sugar. Most packaged foods in the grocery store are chock full of fillers and preservatives and other synthetic chemicals that really don't need to be in there. And if they do need to be in there, it's probably something that you don't need to be eating. But simply getting in the habit of reading labels is going to make you so much more aware of what's in the food that you're putting in your body, what needs to be there, what doesn't need to be there, what random things sneak in places. So just as an example, I'm having a spiced pear oatmeal for breakfast. So of course we have the oats. These are packaged. It has a nutrition label. Let's read it. And when you look at that, it's only whole grain oats. One food, not a bunch of added fillers. We're good. A pear is a great example of food that does not need a nutrition label. Spices are things that you do want to read. A lot of times they'll have added fillers and stuff like that. So let's look at the nutmeg. Organic nutmeg, that's great. This cinnamon came in a completely separate jar, but it's literally just cinnamon. For the milk that I'm using, we have my favorite brand, Milk, because let's look at these ingredients over here. You would be surprised what you can find in almond milk, but in this almond milk, it's literally just water, sprouted almonds, and Himalayan salt. Let's just compare this really quick to this random other almond milk brand that is in my house thanks to my ex-roommate. Look at this massive list of ingredients. Do all those things need to be in there? Absolutely not, as evidenced by the fact that this almond milk is perfectly good almond milk and it only has 3 ingredients. And then I'm going to be topping it with some peely nut butter, which by the way is freaking amazing. Peely nuts are thebomb.com. But on the ingredients list, we have peely nuts, organic coconut butter, extra virgin coconut oil, lion's mane cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, and Himalayan salt. These are all things that you can find individually by themselves. They're all very whole, unprocessed ingredients. They're just put together in a little nut butter. So this one, good to go. Then I'm also just tossing on some sprouted almonds. These are from the farmer's market. I don't know if they require a nutritional label, but it's literally just sprouted almonds. Boom. spiced pear oatmeal. This actually looks really delicious and I'm quite proud of myself right now, not gonna lie. I will put the full recipe down in the description in case you want to make it. The next practice that I recommend implementing to improve your overall health and well-being is self-care. We live in a society now where being super busy and not having time for self-care is worn like a badge of honor, and that makes it that much harder to decide to take that time to yourself. But I promise you, if you put time and effort into making yourself a better, happier person, you will be more efficient in all of your work. You will be a much better friend and daughter, mother, son, etc. If you take the time to give a little something to yourself, you're going to have a lot more to give to all of the things that you do and the people who are important to you. And taking time for self-care doesn't have to take a long time. It can be literally anything you want it to be, as long as it is something that is focused on making you feel good. Right now for me, since I have been so busy and I'm just finally getting a chance to unwind, nothing sounds better than to curl up on this couch with a nice cup of my hot ginger lemon tea with the recipe that I talked about in my last video and binge watch the Great British Baking Show. And taking the time to do that has made such a difference. Like, I feel like a new person because of the Great British Baking Show. Okay, not because of the Great British Baking Show, although I have been a little bit more inspired in the kitchen than usual. But really, you can do anything. It can be a minute of meditation every morning. It could be doing a face mask once a week. It could be walking through the mall and not even buying anything, but just looking at cool stuff. It could be reading Harry Potter or watching Harry Potter with your roommates, which I did the other night, or it could be taking yourself out to a nice dinner once a month. Just literally anything, just as long as you're taking a moment to care about and for yourself. This tip is probably one of the hardest to implement, but has the potential to have the biggest impact. And this tip is to cut out all of the negativity in your life that you have at least a little ounce of control over whether or not it's in your life. I strongly encourage you to go through your Instagram and your Facebook and any other social media platform that you're on and unfollow anyone who regularly makes you feel less good about yourself. Anyone that you see on any of your social media feeds that you regularly compare yourself to has the potential to be causing a lot more harm than you might realize. There are some forms of comparison that are inspirational. For example, you might see someone on your feed who's like lifting twice their body weight and you're like, yeah, like I hope that I can be that strong one day. I'm not that strong now, but I'm aspiring to be like that. And it's setting a positive goal in your mind. But there's also a lot of comparison that leads to a lot of negative thoughts that can spiral around in your head for days. If you regularly see someone on your feed and one of your first thoughts is, I wish I looked more like her, or I wish my waist were smaller like hers, and you get a thought in your head that the way you look or the way that you are is not good enough and that you should be more like someone else, then that's a sign that you should probably unfollow that person. If seeing their post triggers any negative thoughts, feelings, or behaviors, unfollow. Social media is a very powerful place where lots of people can have a huge impact on how you feel. So this is one of the most important places to eliminate negativity. But another place is in real life. Sometimes the most toxic thing in your life is someone who you're very close with. It could be a childhood friend who turned out to not be the nicest person, but you've been friends with them for so long that it would be really hard to just tell them to go away and you don't want to be friends with them anymore. It could be someone who you're good friends with who helped you through a really difficult situation, but now they're taking advantage of that to manipulate you. It could be a whole host of different situations and circumstances, and letting these people stay in your life when you know objectively that overall they are a negative force in your life is not conducive to being a healthy, well person. This is why this tip is probably one of the hardest things to do, because breaking up with a friend is just as hard as breaking up with a partner, and it's not fun. It's very unpleasant. It'll probably make you feel worse for a while, but eventually you'll come out the other side and realize that it was all for the better, and you'll be much happier. You'll be free of that weight that was holding you down, and it's totally worth it. This is a really great step that you can take to help improve your mental health and well-being, which will in turn improve your physical health and fitness and help you achieve your aesthetic goals. If you've ever had a day where you're kind of down because of something that you saw online or something that someone said to you, and you just haven't had the motivation to go to the gym, you decided to eat your feelings instead of continue to eat healthy, you know the power of having these negative forces constantly in your life. So just do yourself a favor, evaluate your life objectively, be real with yourself, and cut out as many negative forces as you can. And we have time for one last tip before bed, because my last tip has to do with sleep, and that is to go to bed at the same time every night, including weekends. Establishing a constant circadian rhythm is one of the best things you can do for your health and fitness. Regulation of your circadian rhythm can help regulate your hormones, which is super important. That can affect how effective your workouts are. Getting enough sleep can also impact how the micronutrients in your food are absorbed. So even if you're eating super clean and super healthy, you might not be getting as much out of it if you aren't sleeping well. Disturbance in your circadian rhythm can also affect your gut health, which can affect the health of the rest of your body. It can also increase your stress levels. It can make you more insulin resistant. There's just a whole host of reasons as to why getting enough sleep and having a consistent sleep schedule is extremely important for your health and your fitness and your aesthetic goals. One of the most effective ways you can ensure that you're getting enough sleep and have a regular circadian rhythm is going to bed at the same time every night. If you struggle with this, I highly recommend setting an alarm on your phone for 30 minutes or half an hour before you're supposed to go to bed to tell you to start getting ready for bed. And when that alarm goes off, you stop what you're doing, you get up, you get ready for bed, and then you go to bed. But speaking of which, it is now my bedtime, so I am going to head off to bed. I hope you guys found these tips helpful. I hope that they're small enough that you can implement and you'll be able to see a really big change really quickly. Let me know down in the comments if there have been any small changes you've made that have ended up having a drastic impact on your health and fitness, and we can all share our tips down in the comments and learn from each other. But in the meantime, please give this video big thumbs up, because it really does support me and my channel and I really appreciate it. Please share this video with your friends and your family and your fitness buddies. Please subscribe for more videos. Hit the notification button so you don't miss those videos, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.